What you listening to, son?
I don't think you like it.
Well, why not? I like this new generation of music.
What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Everything is Everything podcast, where we discuss the idea that every topic is related if you take the right steps. As always, please make sure to like if you like or don't if you don't. Also, leave comments on what topics we should try to connect in our future podcasts.
Yo, welcome back to Everything is Everything. I'll be your host for today. I'm Christian. This is Chris and our newcomer, Eric. We want to welcome you. We thank you for tuning in. Today's podcast, we're going to be talking about how to respond to adversity and dealing with adversity. But we want to touch up on some things from the last podcast where we talked about how to be in the present moment and recognize that you're in the present moment. Now, there's some things we left out, and we're going to talk about how to have techniques to know that you're in the present moment. So we're going to give you some techniques to kind of thinking about that. So, Chris, what is one way or a couple ways to know that you're in the present moment and realize the present moment that you're in?
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, last podcast we really forgot to mention techniques. We kind of went into how it's important and why it's important, why you should appreciate the present moment for what it is while you're in it. But obviously, you can't really implement that if you don't know how, right? And so I think the number one technique for implementing it is just to understand that you don't want to be that person that's always upset in a moment and worried about the past, worried about the future. Mm-hmm. So your number one technique is just going to be, I need to change, right? That's going to be your number one technique. It always starts with, realization, right? Mm-hmm. So when you understand that you need to change, that's when the change can actually begin.
Yep.
And this is exactly what we were talking about last pod. If everything is always everybody else's fault, then you can't really change anything about the situation.
Right.
And Eric, you understand that as well as anybody, right? Back in the football days, Patty always used to tell everybody that there's always something that you could have done differently to change the outcome.
Yeah, I feel like if you're always thinking about the past or the future, you're already creating some sort of insecurity or some sort of false narrative that's going to happen. You're already thinking about you're either thinking about what you could have done or what's going to happen, going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
And you make up these false narratives in your head, and you get in your own head, and it sabotages you.
Right.
It sabotages your ability to just live peacefully and live in the moment and accept what comes. And that's what a lot of people need to understand is, like, living in the present is just focusing on what you have in front of you and dealing with the situation at hand.
Right.
And worrying about what happens in the future is completely out of your control.
Absolutely. And one of those things is that you just have to take things one step at a time sometimes. You got to take a couple of steps back, and then you look at the whole picture. You're like, man, I'm focused on this entire picture at all times. That's where anxiety comes from.
That's a great way to also get through adversity. I know we wanted to cover adversity, so
this is a tremendous way to get through adversity. Like you take things one step at a time.
100%.
I'll give you guys perfect examples. Serving tables.
Mm-hmm.
There's many examples. Serving tables, selling houses, anything where you have a multitude of things that are going on,
mm-hmm.
and you need to get through all of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any task, chores, bucket list, whatever. The point is, if you take things one step at a time, it's going to be that much easier for you to get clarity. And I know how Christian's always talking about clarity and vision and stuff like that.
It's really important because it's definitely, I always use basketball because basketball is like my number one sport that I do. So even like in a game where we're down by 5, and it's the fourth quarter with 5 minutes to go, you have to go possession by possession. You have to understand the moment that you're in and focus on what you can control. Give what the defense gives you and take what you can get. So you have to operate in a way knowing that, okay, we're not worrying about what's going to happen at the end of the game. We're worrying about what we can do right now, what we can control. And I think that's a technique that you have to use in order to, like, you can't worry about create all these different scenarios in your head thinking that one of them is just going to happen. If you don't change what's happening in the present moment, none of those scenarios are going to happen.
You're right. Well, what's crazy is that people spend so much time making up how life should be.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't spend enough time focusing on what the best move is,
mm-hmm.
right? So and I struggle with this sometimes. We all struggle with this sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're in a moment. It just seems so overwhelming. We got so many things that we want to accomplish. We got and that's what anxiety comes from, really. You got too many things going on, and so your mind tells you to stop and prepare for all outcomes. That's too many outcomes,
Yeah.
right? That's too many because I can make up outcome after outcome after outcome after outcome after outcome. Really, I could do it all day.
Yep.
And as a matter of fact, if you don't control your mind, you will do it all day.
You know, there's this philosophy. It's called Stoicism. You're being able to have control of your emotions and have control of what you're thinking, and it goes back to living in the present, because living in the present in Stoicism is huge, because you're in control of your emotions. If you can make yourself feel happy or feel sad, and people make themselves feel sad and anxious by worrying about what they could have done or what they should have done, and worrying about what's going to happen next. So Stoicism is is a great technique. I feel like a lot of the people who are watching this should look into Stoicism and what that's about, and
100%.
learning to control your mind and your emotions, and realize like you have to be able to control what you can control, and what is out of your control is out of your control. And why should you even have to worry about it? Why even stress or develop this kind of anxiety?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm so glad you brought up the point of Stoicism. I'm sure we've all heard of Stoicism at one point, even the people that are watching this or may watch it in the future. But that is one of the topics that I wanted to talk about in the pod. If you look in the pod, ideas and stuff like that, you'll find Stoicism kind of near the bottom.
It's huge. It's very important. I feel like a lot of people should practice it, because I mean, when you're put in a difficult position where you're stressed, you're feeling all types of emotions, you're able to just stay calm and collective and think clearly and think logically and think what you have to do next and how you can approach the situation. It's totally worth it. I mean, practicing it, reading books about it.
That's huge.
Marcus Aurelius. There's
tons of Stoic
there's
philosophers.
all the philosophers.
Socrates, all of it.
They all preach this, and they're very successful, and their books and what they wrote about and their journals are all huge. They're all
100%.
important lessons that you should definitely take from.
Yeah, and Stoicism, it's more than just about emotional regulation too. That's a huge part of it. It's massive. It's crucial. It's a big part of it. But also Stoicism, I was talking to somebody in the school about this not too long ago. It's also about being unapologetically you, but also not being disrespectful. And this is what we talked about in the very first podcast. How do you tote that line between being yourself and being disrespectful, right?
I think when it comes to being you, you have to know that no matter what you say or what you do, people have to accept you for you. Now, people's perception of you may always be different, but you know who you are. So I know what I do. I know what I'm about, and I know the type of person that I am. Now, somebody that doesn't know me may think of me differently, but somebody who does know me and they know my ideologies, what I go by, what I'm about, it's always two different perceptions. So if being unapologetically you is an issue, then it's really an issue with that person that you have to take up with them, or you don't even have to take it up with them.
Oh, you should just move on.
You should just move on. Because if I'm worried about what somebody else is thinking about me, what am I doing? I'm not really being me.
You're not being present in the moment.
Right.
You've lost your clarity. You've lost your vision.
Right.
And on top of that, you can't appreciate the moment that you're going through, right? And what you'll find is that even at its lowest points, life is beautiful, right?
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of things that could be going wrong. And I guess my question is, if you're going through something, right, why don't we compare that? We're always so used to comparing that against what we think it should be, right? We're always so used to being like, man, this moment isn't going how I thought it was, or how I thought it would be, or how I thought it should be. My question to you is, why don't we compare that to nothing? Would you rather have a nice challenge in your life, or would you rather sit there, be completely bored all the time, not even be able to move? There's people out there that aren't able to move. There's people out there that aren't able to move. There's people that can't afford to put food on the table.
I don't know if you guys ever seen this. It's kind of like a meme, but it's like, suffer or suffer. You have two choices. The first suffering is sitting on a couch, eating garbage food, not doing anything productive. And the other suffering is working out in the gym, productivity, building yourself. You can either suffer that way or you can suffer this way. It's your choice.
It's the pain of discipline or the pain of regret.
Of regret, 100%, dude.
Absolutely.
I've seen that all over, man. And I think that is crucial to remember.
Because I mean, it is the truth. I mean, everyone nowadays is too comfortable. They're too complacent.
They're too used to being comfortable, and I think to answer your question, when it comes to, you have to think about, okay, if I had nothing, like absolutely nothing, I had nothing on the table, nothing to feed my family, no money, no nothing, what would I be doing right now?
You'd be trying to hustle, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I think about all the things that I have, that I take advantage of, that I take for granted. And then I think about, if I didn't have those things, would I still be moving the same way that I'm moving right now?
Absolutely not. And that is a huge point. And I'm glad you brought that up, because Eric, I remember back in the day, like, you know, I mean, not back in the day, really, but earlier this year, like during lunch, I'd be talking to you, and I'd be like, man, like, I almost feel like, because I love my parents so much, right? I really do. I'd do anything in the world for my parents, right?
Absolutely.
But there's this thing, I forget what exactly it's called, but it's like you almost hurt the ones you love the most. And that's something that I feel like not only all three of us can relate to, anybody that watches this pod can relate to that at some point too.
Yeah.
You know, you just didn't mean to be disrespectful, but they caught you on the wrong day.
Yeah.
They said something that offended you, whatever the case may be. But I asked you, I was like, dude, like, what do you think is the best, like, course of action for me in this? And I guess my question is, if anybody were to ask you that today, what would you say?
Well, honestly, like, it comes down to, if you're truly being disrespectful, like, if it comes down to, like, if you're disrespectful to a loved one, or if you're being disrespectful or being yourself, you know, so I feel like, personally, like, if you're yourself and you're fully confident in what you're doing and, you know, how you are, and you have no shame in that, and you disrespect some people, like, people are going to be disrespected by you. They're going to be upset. They're going to see you, and, you know, they're going to be upset about, you know, how you are, how you act, and screw that. I don't care. I don't even pay attention. But if I'm intentionally disrespectful to loved ones and that people that I care about, and I don't realize it, like, if I do something messed up to one of my friends or something, and, you know, I get called out on it, you got to take responsibility. Part of part of being a mature person and understanding that about disrespect, and, you know, you wouldn't want to be disrespected. So if you're disrespecting a loved one like that, you got to take responsibility. You have to take the mature action and take responsibility for it and learn from it.
I think that is absolutely crucial, and that's whether it's accidental or not.
Yeah.
If you do it on purpose, I mean, there's a little more that you probably have to pay attention to if you're doing that on purpose. It's probably a little more than just taking accountability.
Yeah.
Right.
When you were talking earlier about you know, people not liking you, or, you know, being yourself and everything. You know, I read a book. It's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F.
Oh yeah, I've heard
by
about
Mark Manson. Pretty much that book covers, like, you should go through life with the philosophy that you don't give a
F.
Yeah.
You don't give an F, you know? Not in regards to, like, oh, I don't care about anything. I don't care about this. Like, I don't care what happens to my life. I don't care about this. But, like, in regards to, I don't care what people think about me. I don't care what these outsiders are saying. I don't care about, you know, this. I'm not gonna try. I'm just gonna do. Like, you're just this fully confident person in yourself, and you just don't give a F what other people think. And that's such a strong mindset. I can't stress that enough. That is, if there's anything I've learned through, like, self-improvement and reading and, you know, understanding that, it's that confidence is, oh my God,
it's key.
It is so important. And that book, like, highlights it completely. Like, having the mindset that, like, you don't give a F, like, any approach, any situation that you go into. Say you're going into, you know, you're going to give a public speaking, like, you're going to be speaking to a bunch of random people. You're super nervous. You got to have the mindset, like, I don't give a F. I'm gonna nail this. I'm gonna kill this. I'm fully confident in myself. It literally works wonders for your minds. I mean, it's unbelievable. If you have that mindset, it's unreal.
And I think if everybody had that mentality, I think the world would be a completely different. It would be completely changed around.
But almost, it might be catastrophic.
It might be catastrophic.
You know what I mean?
It definitely could be. But I think at the same time, where when you look at people that are more sensitive than others, most of the time it's because somebody's had something happen to them or said to them.
Yeah.
Where now they receive things differently. Everybody I can say the same thing to Eric, and he receives it a different way. And I can say the same thing to you, and you could take it in a completely different direction.
Certainly.
Now, I could say it in the same tone, say the exact same sentence, everything is the same. But you received it a different way because of something that might have previously happened to you. And Eric, if he has that same mentality that we talked about, he could be receiving it a different way because he has a mentality like, I don't care. So now it's two different perspectives, two different weight classes. Mm-hmm. So now it's kind of harder for that person to get that, like, I don't give an F mentality when something was said to them and they took it to heart.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, you can't take it hard.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Eric, back to what you were saying about accountability and responsibility. That's something that I definitely want to touch up on in another pod.
Yeah.
That we could talk about that for, probably
Definitely.
5 pods, right?
Yeah.
But today we're not going to talk too much about it. If you want to hear about it, you'll see it eventually.
Stay tuned.
You'll see it eventually. We'll talk about accountability, definitely. But I do want to talk about how when you were saying, about treating your family with respect and stuff like that, friends, loved ones, whatever. I want to talk about what we talked about in, I think it was 2 pods ago, me and Christian. We just simply talked about how the first step in dealing with anything, that's a perfect example of having to have a difficult conversation.
Oh, yes.
And that's it's a horrible feeling when you sit there and you think, man, I really screwed up, and now I got to go apologize.
Yeah,
definitely.
But that apology is always the hardest because you feel like you are expressing your true emotion, and you feel like because you were expressing that true emotion, you don't need to be unapologetic about it. Mm-hmm. But even if you feel that you don't need to apologize, you still should, because you understand that, number one, it will build your character, but number two, you still have to hold that relationship. You still have to maintain that relationship, no matter how mad you are, no matter what.
Yeah.
You still have to put your pride to the side and apologize to that person that you hurt.
Yeah, and it's not like you apologizing is changing your emotions about how you feel.
It's not changing you.
It's apologizing for
what you did.
Disrespecting the person in front of you. But that has nothing to do with you changing your emotions. I mean, obviously, in certain cases, you can be like, okay, I can see I messed up here. Like, this is not cool. But if you're genuinely passionate about something, and why should you have to apologize for disrespecting the person? But don't change who you are. Don't change your beliefs.
Well, sometimes you have to apologize, and this is exactly the point that I wanted to make. Like, connecting back to the pod, the first step in that, I know we're kind of getting a little bit off topic, but not really, because this is dealing with adversity as well.
We can go. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So basically, but the first step in that, and this is just even adding to what we said in the pod. This is another perfect example. If you need to go apologize to someone, say you found out, you've done the mental work, and you've asked yourself, look, did I do something that caused this? And that answer is clearly yes, right? If you said something to your parents or a loved one or a friend, whatever, and they got upset with you for what you said, then you clearly did something to negatively affect the outcome of that situation, right?
Yeah. Right.
So then it's about taking that accountability, swallowing your pride, just not taking yourself so seriously all the time, right? And so you finally understand that you're like, once you've gone through those stages, you finally understand, okay, it's time to apologize.
Yep.
And like I said before, it's extremely hard. Ain't nobody said it was easy to apologize. It
takes a lot of maturity.
A lot of maturity.
And an example, I have an example of this. So I remember a long time ago, I was in an argument with one of my friends. And I remember she said something to me that angered me. And I was pissed. I was pissed off. And I said way too many things that I should have just kept to myself. I should have just reflected, sat there, took a couple of
Stoicism.
deep breaths. Yep, right there.
That's where it comes in.
That's where I didn't really know about it because I was so young.
Yeah, exactly.
I was so young. I was like a freshman or a sophomore. I really didn't understand even what feelings or emotion was. I was just raging.
Yeah.
So I said way too many things that I shouldn't have said. And I know they were sensitive things and sensitive topics that were happening in her life. And I just boom.
This man went down the list.
I was relentless. The whole group chat went silent for the rest of the day. Nobody said a word. I put the whole group chat on silent, talking to this one person. And I was just thinking about it after, and she was crying. I felt horrible.
Yeah.
Right. I was just sitting in my room thinking about.
Hit you hard.
It hit me hard, and I was like, I have to apologize for what
You
I
have
did.
to.
I had to put my pride to the side. Pride isn't even a thing at that point.
Yeah.
When you know that you have to put your ego,
It's
your
not even a
pride to
factor.
the side.
Yeah.
It's not even a factor. And I had to accept that I was in the wrong for saying what I said.
Yeah.
And that's the first part of anything. You have to accept the reality of what it is.
Yeah.
And dude,
it's hard.
It's
It's
impossible
hard.
almost.
Yeah.
And it's almost, and the thing that makes it even worse is when you have to apologize when you're still mad.
Oh,
It
man.
makes it
Yeah.
or angry. It makes it even worse.
It's like
So my question
yeah.
to you guys, because I know you've been in situations where you don't want to apologize because you're mad.
Yeah.
But how do you allow yourself to apologize to other people even when you're angry? What are some steps to take?
Okay, I'll give you a perfect example. All right, and this is back when I was like 7 or 8 years old, right? And this was at the point where I hadn't even started my journey to wanting to be a better person. I was.
I mean,
wasn't-
you're 7 and 8 years old.
Yeah.
It's hard. If you recognize that at 7 to 8 years old,
You're going somewhere.
You're going somewhere.
Absolutely, but this is at the point where I was just unapologetically mean, rather than unapologetically me. I was just unapologetically mean, saying things that I shouldn't have said. Like you said, you say things that you regret later on.
Absolutely.
So I'll give you a story. I was 8 years old. My dad used to work for this place, and they used to have this Christmas party at the Ewing or Trenton Country Club. Right, it was a super nice area, beautiful pools, Olympic size, food, waiters, the whole 9 yards, silver platters, whatever. I go there. My parents, right before it, they were like, "Listen, don't act up, be kind, and this is a fancy place." I remember specifically what I said. I said, "Fancy schmancy." That's exactly what I said. And so we get there, and they have the adults here, and all the kids, they go to a separate room and be, watched over by a counselor or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And this girl, there was a girl and there was a guy, and I can't remember if there was another person, but they were probably like, I don't know, 20, 25, something in between there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm there, and I'm sitting there, and I don't remember much about the night. I remember we were watching Happy Feet on the thing. They just had it on. But I was, like, absolutely laying into this girl, bro. Like I was being way too rude. But, and I'm not excusing this at all, but this guy, he was laughing. So I think I just wanted to feel like I was funny. I wanted somebody to be laughing. I don't know what it was exactly. But, dude, I was so mean to this girl that she actually ended up crying and leaving the entire thing. I don't know if she quit her job, but I know she left for the night. And after that, I really didn't feel bad. But now, dude, bro, now that I think back on it, even I don't know, probably a year later maybe, I did end up writing an apology letter to her though, but only because my parents forced me to. Mm-hmm. My parents are great parents. They would never let me act up like that without consequences. My mom put me to work. You know what I'm saying? She's not going to let me do that without consequences. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is that, in that moment, you didn't realize that you would regret that so much later.
Right.
I look back on that today, and I wish I could talk to this girl and apologize to her in person. Mm-hmm. I would give her money, dude. I feel so bad about that, right? I would literally, empty out my pockets right now and give her everything in my pockets right now, dude. Because I actually genuinely feel so bad about it, right?
Yeah.
And I don't remember what I said, but I do know that people will forget what you said. Exactly. A lot of times they'll forget what you said, and they'll forget the specifics of the conversation, but they'll never, ever, ever forget how you made them feel.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
Never forget that feeling.
Never. And she probably, to this day, is going around, or I'm not saying she's going around thinking about it. Yeah, but if she thought about it, she'd be like, yeah, that kid was terrible.
Yes.
And on top of that, now that I've gained a little wisdom and clarity, that reflects badly on my parents who don't deserve it at all.
Yeah.
Right? My parents sat there and they said, look, you're going to write this apology letter whether you like it or not. I don't care. You're going to write it. It's going to be a front and back. It's going to be handwritten, and you're going to do it whether you like it or not. Mm-hmm. So my parents, they would never let me do something like that. But I say this as an example to let you guys know, let anybody that's watching know that there are going to be times where you have things to say, right? That you might not should, right? You you shouldn't say those things. And I think one of the biggest steps before you say those things is to just think about a time where you said something and you regretted it so much later.
Right.
I think everybody has stories like that. And I still think about that thing to this day.
Right.
Yeah, I know one.
And it's hard when you're in the present moment to try and take a break just to think, because all your emotions are rushing so fast and they're consuming you. But I think even when you are in an argument, I think the number one thing you have to do is just think. And it's hard to really think when you're angry and you're in a difficult
Emotions are fast.
conversation.
But it's gonna pay off.
It's really gonna help you, because even when you're about to say something and you just stop, even for a quick second, and you're just like, it's not worth it.
Eric,
It's not worth it.
Yeah, I remember with my ex-girlfriend, we used to get into a lot of arguments before, and I would always, she would always be yelling at me, and then that caused me to lash out, and, I would and get all angry, and I would say, I would get angry and say stuff that, I shouldn't have said, and then it just create this huge argument.
And it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. It's like adding fuel to the fire.
Exactly. Yeah, especially with like a girlfriend, something like that.
But going through something like that has taught me, getting into another relationship, being, understanding. Like,
makes you learn.
Absolutely.
I have not once raised my voice at all. Since I'm in a relationship again with someone else, and I haven't. I've been calm and collected, even during that difficult time where an argument might come up. You stay calm and collected. Right. It actually makes
you a lot better.
Yeah, and actually, a girl is gonna look at that and be like, "Wow, okay, here's a man who can control his emotions." I mean, emotional stability and being able to not lash out and vent.
Very stoic of you, man.
Yeah. It's crucial. I mean, controlling your emotions and during arguments like that, and it just helps with every aspect of friends, family, relationships. I mean, being able to do that just shows, a sign of maturity and a sign of that, all right, this guy knows what he's doing. Most individuals can't do that. He's mentally overcome that hill of dealing with his emotions and not lashing out and acting like an idiot.
I think even when you are in an argument and people see that you're starting to get tempered, it's like kind of giving them the war just a little bit, because once you get all fired up and they know that you're fired up, they're already slightly winning the battle, because you're off of your ground now.
Yeah.
You're unstable, where they can say anything they want, and you're just lashing back at them. So they have all of your attention now. It's like you're already on their side at that point. So once they see that you're mature and it's not bothering you, they're most likely to give up. There's no point in talking to you. Yeah. When you
it's like talking to a brick wall.
It's like talking to a brick wall.
It's
when you know.
That's how you gotta be.
Right.
Not giving an F. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When you can control your emotions, it will make you 100 times better in any difficult conversation, in any argument, in any predicament that you have, because you'll have the ability to
relationship,
think anything,
friendships, all that stuff.
And the best way to practice that is to go through arguments.
Have difficult conversations.
Difficult conversations.
Difficult conversations will build you up. I'm gonna say it again. Difficult conversations.
Say it with the mic, bro. It's not plugged in, but say it with the mic, man.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Difficult conversations will build you up. I'm telling you, you gotta have them. Do not run from them.
And even after you have a difficult conversation, it's all about, even before actually. Matter of fact, it's about taking that step back and realizing, taking things one step at a time,
right,
and dealing with that adversity that you got going on, right?
Absolutely.
All right. With that being said, that rounded back perfectly to what we were talking about today, and this conversation was perfect because this is going to allow tons of avenues for the next podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
We could talk about stoicism. We could talk about accountability. I probably want to do stoicism.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe we'll see.
Keep it a surprise.
Yeah.
Keep it posted.
Listen,
just stay tuned.
Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate every supporter and viewer that watches this.
Yeah, that was definitely loud.
That was definitely loud. They gonna hear that one. I'm sorry for that. I apologize. But always like, comment, subscribe, share, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Cheers.
Peace out.